called Left Right, I think, is that right? What's Right?
Yes.
What's Right? And I really enjoyed that. I think it's something Tony Abbott should read. But of course, Waleed is also very familiar with a lot of you who listen to 774 3LO. He's become a fixture. And John Fain was in Footscray yesterday. I went up to him and rather boastfully said, well, we've got Waleed at our festival tomorrow. He gave it a bit of a plug too. I was appreciative. And I said to him, we think he should replace you because he's better looking than you. Steve Bracks is, of course, the former Premier of Victoria. He was thrice elected and served as Premier from 1999 to 2007. And under his leadership, something very significant happened. Under his leadership, Steve made, or his government made a successful bid for Melbourne to become an international city of literature. It's one of the most significant acts, I believe, and we should be all very, very appreciative of that. We are now the second city, or we were originally the second city of literature. There is a third city now after Edinburgh. So as a result of that, we've got wonderful facilities like the Wheeler Centre, and literature is recognised as a true branch of the arts in Victoria, and we should be really appreciative of that. Thank you, Steve. At our festival, we've been trying for 7 years to get Steve Bracks to be a participant. I'm proud to say Terry Bracks and his wife, who's somewhere here, sorry about the noise, we'll try and get them to quieten it. So Terry Bracks was a participant at our first festival in 2004, and now we've got Steve here today. And as you know, they're going to be, Steve and Waleed are going to be talking about a number of things, including footy. And as you may know, Steve barracks for Geelong, Waleed barracks for Richmond, and by happy coincidence, those two sides will be playing themselves as each other this weekend. So without further ado, please help us welcome our two speakers. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Angela, and I should say congratulations. This has really been an initiative of Councillor Angela Altair, and it's now institutionalised. It's a great event, and in turn, congratulations for being the foundation chair of this event as well. It's great. It's a great honour to have Waleed Aly here. Waleed is one of the great Australians, great Victorians. As Angela said, he's the author of one particular book, People Like Us, How Arrogance Has Divided Islam in the West, but also the quarterly essay on the right and conservatism in Australia as well, and I think we might explore that. But generally the aim will be to be conversational, to do that for about half the time, to open up for questions and answers, and we might be able to give, and Waleed can give as well, and try and explore some of the views and attitudes that are coming through in some of the writings that Waleed has had as well. I might just kick off by...
Actually, before you do that...
Yes.
These people sitting in the front row have the worst seats in the whole... Does this move?
Yes.
How far back does it go before?
There you go. Justin's got big Justin.
Done.
Hi there. So you thought you were sitting in the front row and that was great. Sorry.
Thanks, Waleed. So I might just kick off. One of the key questions I had was, what caused you to write People Like Us? What really annoyed you? And clearly what comes through there is a fair bit of anger about the disconnect between Islam and the West, so-called, the parallel universes, the parallel discussions, the parallel debates, the lack of connection in really discussing effectively any of those key issues. So that comes through in a very strong way. I'm just interested why, what caused you to do that?
Oh, it's really hard to answer this question without being really disappointing. Honestly, the way this book worked was Picador, who published the book, approached me and said, would you like to write a book? And I said, well, I'd like to have a book written. I don't know that I would actually like to write it. And the main thing was I didn't really feel like I had an idea. So over several months and lots of coffee, although I don't drink coffee, but I'm referring to the social institution of having coffee rather than the actual drinking of coffee. They gradually convinced me I had something to say. And so I did, but I didn't really know what it was. And at that time, actually, a seminal moment was just after the London bombings. And it was about them we were having these conversations. And after the London bombings, there were a lot of words floating around in media, but none of them seemed to me to make any sense. And I was upset not so much that people were saying things I disagreed with, but people were saying things that I felt were just incoherent. They just didn't actually have any internal consistency. They were throwing around words where they really didn't understand what they meant. One of the things that bothered me most was this idea, it's very, very popular, that because of the advent of terrorism, what Muslim world needs to do is go through a reformation. And that annoyed me, because I sat there and thought, well, do you know what a reformation is? Do you know what you're actually asking for? And do you have any understanding of what a reformation would mean in the context of Islamic history? Because one of the points that I wanted to make and ended up making in this book is, in many ways, the Muslim world and the Islamic tradition has had its reformation, and Al-Qaeda and the Taliban are it. So if what you're calling for is a reformation, then be aware that that's what you're asking for. But what you're doing when you say you want Islam to go through a reformation is you're saying, well, it worked for Christendom, therefore it should work for you. And it was that kind of strain of thinking that I identified that really bothered me, was this tendency that human beings have to universalise their history, universalise the lessons of their experience, and say that what works in one context, that is my context, should work in everybody else's context. And if you've got a problem, then the way to solve that problem is for you to become more like me.